Hello there, you beautiful people! My name is Willow, and welcome back to another Fallout Challenge run. My last run in Skyrim with only crafting was tedious, so today we're gonna take on something a bit more straightforward while we find out if I can beat Fallout 4's survival difficulty as a thief. But before we get into the run, let's lay down some ground rules. I can only use items obtained by lockpicking, hacking, or stealing. I must play the entire game on the survival difficulty. I can't use any bugs or glitches on purpose to exploit the game. I can only use visual mods with the exception of Start Me Up, and I cannot use console commands for anything but fixing bugs. With the rules of the run laid out, let's take a look at the challenge itself. So this is going to be a new one for me, as I don't remember ever playing any game while focusing on stealing, and I'm interested to see what roadblocks lay ahead of me. Before we get into the full breakdown, I want to clarify that any item that is shown as red when interacting with it is valid in this run, but I'm also allowing myself to use items only obtainable by lockpicking or hacking. This is because I feel I should be able to break open a safe or hack a door to a locked room and take its contents regardless of if the game marks the items as owned or not, as that feels very thief-like to me. Either way, I write these scripts as I go, and all of this part has been written prior to beginning the run. If you want to skip past my starting thoughts, go to the timecode on screen now. With them gone, let's dump some info. So this run sounds really easy in my head, but as I looked into it more, I realized it's actually quite tricky. In Fallout 4, there's a surprisingly small number of owned weapons and armor that are naturally occurring in the world, and I feel I'm going to need to rush to level 17 so I can get the third rank of the pickpocket perk, which will allow me to at least steal some weapons right off the NPCs in the Commonwealth. But before that, I expect to struggle a lot and have very few supplies in general to work with. Overall, the perks I'm going to need to level up the most are going to be pickpocket, lockpick, and stealth, alongside maybe hacking if I feel I need it. Anyways, that's enough talking. Go down below and let me know if you think I can beat this run, and with that, let's get into the run, which starts in my pre-war bathroom, where I create the ultimate thief before going to leave my bathroom, where I use the Start Me Up mod to have an alternative start to the game. I set my name and special stats before choosing a bunch of options. What you need to know is I'm starting the run at level 1 with no items, and I spawned in the northern side of the map near a lake. The first thing I need to do is find somewhere to steal from, so I start running across the Commonwealth while avoiding dying to super mutants until I find this odd holotape. Listen up, you beautiful people. Do you like fantasy settings? Did you grow up reading fantasy books like Aragon by Christopher Paolini like I did? Well, if so, you absolutely have to check out the Songs of Chaos book series by Michael R. Miller. It features an amazing story that follows a servant boy named Holt Cook who defies society to save a blind dragon and become a dragon rider. What I really like is the fact that Holt isn't some hero from a prophecy or the chosen one, he's just an outcast trying to survive in a brutal world. I absolutely love listening to the audiobook narrated by Peter Kenny, who also narrated the Witcher series, and his narration really brings the characters to life. I feel I can visualize everything when listening to the audiobooks on walks, and considering the Songs of Chaos series has nearly 70 hours of audiobooks available, you can join me in experiencing this epic fantasy series by using the link below, which will take you to your local Audible store. But don't worry if you prefer to read over listen, as you can also find Songs of Chaos on ebooks, Kindle Unlimited, as well as paper and hardback editions. After enjoying that delightful holotape, I reach this small settlement run by ghouls named the Slog, and I immediately try and get some gear by pickpocketing this pony-obsessed ghoul, only for him to catch me and kill me immediately. It's at this point I have a realization that I need to change my special stats because I completely forgot about ammo, and I'm not convinced I can steal enough to reliably use guns in the early game. So I go through the Start Me Up menu again, only changing my special stats, which are 7 in strength for melee damage, 3 in perception to allow me to get the lockpick perk easier later on, 1 in endurance because who needs to be tanky, 1 in charisma because I have no friends, 5 in intelligence for experience gains and the hacker perk, 10 in agility to increase my sneakiness, and 1 in luck because I punched a psychic or something. With that out of the way, we're back in the world and things go a lot better. I managed to make my way to the Slog again and distract all of the settlers by luring some super mutants over to fight them, and as the battle ensues, I frantically steal everything from inside their their house before making my way out of the settlement with some much needed supplies and even my first set of armor. It's not much, but these army fatigues and this hat are better than nothing. I continue on my way towards Boston as I feel there will be more to steal in the city than anywhere else. I eventually manage to make it to Bunker Hill without issue, but when I try and steal from the settlement, I run into an issue that I worry will affect the rest of the run. For some reason, despite the fact I was hidden while stealing, the entire settlement is omniscient and can sense that I stole from them, so they just kill me immediately. I decide to test if this was a fluke, and it happens a second time the exact same way. I just decide to say screw it and move on from Bunker Hill and try my luck somewhere else. I continue meandering my way further into Boston while nearly dying to landmines until I reach Goodneighbor. I have a cunning plan here to get my hands on some real firepower, so I start off by heading over to Bobby in the alley and agreeing to work for her. I then make my way into her basement and take a nap before leaving. Oh, also, you may have noticed that Bobby just paid me to go into her basement and sleep, and I believe now is a good time to mention that caps only really have one use in this run to me, as I can't use them to buy anything because the item I bought wouldn't be stolen. What I can use caps for is medical care. I'm gonna be tracking how many stolen caps I have, and I will use them to get medical care in the future whenever I can. Anyways, I exit Bobby's place and oh, look at that. Hancock calls all of the members of Goodneighbor over to his balcony. It'd be a shame if Cleo lost some stock. Yeah, I stole everything in her storefront before making my way out of Goodneighbor with a Fat Man and Mini Nuke in hand. I also managed to use the 5-finger discount to nab a pipe pistol and some ammo for it. I then make my way to Diamond City, and honestly, the pickings are slim. For some reason, I thought Arturo would have a ton of weapons in his storefront, but he doesn't. I do end up dying when I get caught stealing from his stand, but on my second attempt, I steal from pretty much every store I can find, and in the end, I walk away from the city with a ton of chems and food alongside a new baseball bat, which I expect to be a mainstay throughout the run. I then decide to make my way back up north as I need to go to Vault 111 to start the main storyline of the game due to the Start Me Up mod. So I head through Cambridge until I reach Trudy's Diner, where I try and settle the dispute between her and Wolfgang by initiating a fight against Wolfgang. This goes all right at first, but eventually Simone rushes me inside the diner and kills me. I then make my way back towards the diner again, but this time I run into a synth named Timothy and notice he has a combat knife in his inventory. I attempt to steal it, but fail the 67% chance to pickpocket, and he kills me. After that, I reach the diner only to die once again, this time to Wolfgang as he nails a shot at me through the window. But on my third and final attempt, I managed to stay alive long enough to be able to rush down Simone with my baseball bat after Trudy kills Wolfgang. With the drug dealers dead, I attempt to steal from Trudy, only to get caught immediately before running for my life. I then make my way to Vault 111 and get to have sweet revenge on the rad roaches inside with my baseball bat and pipe pistol. I've suffered at the hands of these evil bugs for so long, and it feels so nice to finally get some payback. I then find the corpse of Nora and listen to the holotape on her, which kicks off the start of the main storyline. I then kill a bunch more rad roaches until the vault falls silent, and upon exiting the vault, I'm a bit lost on what I want to do next, so I proceed to run around the Commonwealth stealing and fighting with a ton of enemies pretty much at random. Instead of describing all of this to you, I want to give you a montage of my thievery and my baseball bat skills.
That's sweet.
With a bunch of new gear in my inventory, I feel it's time to focus on getting some levels. So to start off my leveling journey, I head over to the Cambridge police station where I help Paladin Danse kill off a bunch of ghouls before speaking with him for a while. It's eventually decided that we're going to a nearby facility named ArcJet Systems to obtain a piece of technology for the Brotherhood. This quest, as always, was super easy. I just waltz around with Danse, watching him kill off bandits, mongrels, and eventually a whole army of synths inside ArcJet Systems. I only get involved when it feels safe to do so, and near the end of the dungeon, this happens. Sorry, I only joined. Is this a challenge run? If so, what's the challenge? Somebody let them know what the challenge is. But it's as a thief, but there's like a lot of yes, 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 hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Oh, I'm so happy. Oh. Yeah, I don't think anyone has been as happy as I was about finding a 10mm pistol ever before. Anyways, I finish up the dungeon, leveling up and taking the second rank of the pickpocket perk, and so far I've only really put points into lockpick, pickpocket, sneak, and hacking, and anytime I have a choice to take one of those, I intend to do so. With the call to arms completed, I decide to continue on the trend of doing easy missions by making my way to Diamond City and doing an interview with Piper to complete the Story of the Century quest. After this quest, where I nearly level up, I head over to Arturo's house, where I sneak around, stealing a mini nuke and an army helmet, alongside a bunch of ammo. I then leave Diamond City and decide to test out the 10mm pistol on these rad roaches in a nearby police station, and this goes well, and I'm happy to have a better weapon in my arsenal. I also level up, taking the second rank of the Locksmith perk before heading to the Old North Church, where I die immediately to the ghouls. I intend to return to the Old North Church, but for now I decide to do a bit more prep work by running around the Commonwealth and lockpicking all of the expert safes and containers I had to leave behind before, and I'm really happy I did this, as I ended up finding a hunting rifle, which will be difficult to keep supplied with ammo, but I hope will turn into a mainstay weapon, as it's ideal for getting sneak criticals to start off fights. With a bit more gear, I take on the Old North Church again, only to immediately run into a legendary ghoul which annihilates me. But on my next attempt, I managed to slog my way through ghoul after ghoul until I reach the decoder ring and use it to open the hidden door and meet Desdemona and Deacon. After a long conversation, Desdemona agrees to work with me, and Deacon tells me to meet him near Lexington to help him recover a prototype from their old base. So I head over and meet up with Deacon at the overpass, and together we start making our way to some dude named Ricky, who will give us more information about the mission, but there's some ghouls in between us and the mysterious Ricky, and they don't prove to be too much of a problem, as Deacon and I finish them off with ease before meeting with Ricky. I speak with Ricky for a while and learn that the base is infested with synths, and it's decided that we should take the back door instead of the front door into the base to avoid a direct fight with the synths. Deacon plays guess the password for a while before we enter the dungeon proper and start fighting our way through the synths. The first one is easy as I get a sneak shot with the hunting rifle, but the next room is brutal. There are 4 synths here, and they are hard to get an angle on, and I end up dying after a prolonged fight with them. Oh, also, the last time I slept was before doing the Old North Church because I just forgot to do so. So, yep, I'm dumb, and I even end up dying even more inside the Old North Church to the ghouls before eventually meeting with Desdemona and Deacon again, and then I make sure to save before meeting Deacon and going into this dungeon once more. I also end up dying to the ghouls on the overpass because I've just lost all of my skill in the past half hour. Anyways, after all of that struggling, I'm back inside the dungeon once more with Deacon, and I proceed to struggle even more through each and every room. I end up dying a total of 5 times in this dungeon, and each room I encounter requires a new strategy to overcome. From hiding and letting Deacon do all of the work, to baiting the synths into their own traps, to using a fat man to nuke the final room of synths, I have to fight tooth and nail, but eventually I manage to kill off all the synths and obtain the prototype. I was also a bit torn as I really wanted to use the Deceiver in this run, and it is locked inside a secure room, but after pondering on it for a little while, I decide it's not right because I didn't hack the door open to this room, Deacon did, so I decide to just leave it here in the safe. I then start heading back towards Boston, and along the way I stop by the Cambridge police station, where I get inducted into the Brotherhood of Steel before speaking with Halen and Reese looking for work that they need me to do. I decide to take on the quest to clear out College Square as it's right next to the Cambridge police station, so I head over and start fighting my way through the ghouls at the metro station thinking it'd be a cakewalk, but this turned out to be only partially true. The ghouls themselves aren't actually that difficult to deal with, but I keep dying to silly things such as a ghoul dying and landing on top of a tripwire which blows me up, as well as dying after completing the dungeon because I forgot there were still ghouls outside. But after dying a bunch of times, I managed to clear out the station without making silly mistakes before returning to Reese to turn in the quest and level up. I take the second rank of the hacker perk before returning to the Railroad HQ, where I turn in the Tradecraft the Tradecraft quest to become an official member of the railroad in the codename of Bullseye. Oh my god. Oh, I can't speak. This is so dumb. Why are we still recording? Next clip, quick, get me out. I then get a quest from Carrington to go check on a situation with Old Man Stockton of Bunker Hill. I do just that, only to die to the raiders at this church, and my last save was after turning in the quest to Reese. Oh, I love being stupid. So I go and do all of that stuff again, this time picking Whisper as my code name instead of Bullseye for one reason or another. I also make sure to save after getting the quest from Carrington, before proceeding to die a couple more times to this quest. Eventually though, I managed to kill off all the ghouls infesting this church, but at a high cost. The ghouls managed to cripple my legs, and I realized I forgot to grab the dead drop at the beginning of the quest, so this was all pointless. I crouch walk with a broken leg past a bunch of super mutants for 10 minutes to grab the dead drop and make my way over to Bunker Hill, where I proceed to pickpocket the doctor for all of her caps before spending those said caps on medical care. I then proceed to clear out the church again, this time of raiders, by using grenades and mines that I've stolen throughout the run. Afterwards, I run over to Covenant as it needs to be nighttime for the quest to progress and I need to restock and sleep. So I head over and start stealing, but Honest Dan is being incredibly annoying and staring at me while talking. I get incredibly upset, so here's the live stream clip of me making a promise to kill this man.
You're from Covenant?
Screw you. Why even ask a question if you're not gonna believe what I say? Screw you. No, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Go away, Dan. Nobody loves you. Dan, I'm sorry, but you're dead. You are 1,100, 1 trillion% going to die in this video now. Shut up. After sleeping, I return to the church to find Old Man Stockton there with a synth. After he leaves, another man named High Rise shows up, and I'm supposed to escort these two through some super mutants and raiders back to the safe house. I decide my ammo is worth more than my time and just end up hiding for a long time, only ever fighting when I'm forced to. Eventually, the Synth and High Rise clear their own way to the safe house, and I then return to the Railroad HQ to complete the quest by talking to Carrington before dropping the rewards he gives me and speaking with a supercomputer Assaultron known as Pam, who asks me to go set up a safe house at Sunshine Tidings Co-op. This sounds like a good idea, so I immediately head over to the settlement and start clearing out all the ghouls. Something a bit strange happened though, as there was a legendary ghoul here, but for some reason it disappeared, and I'm not complaining because I really couldn't handle it. I then head over to Diamond City to steal supplies to set up the safe house, only to die after getting caught stealing. But after that, I gather all the materials I need to build 2 turrets and set up the safe house before returning to Pam and turning in the quest while she asks me to go find a DIA cache. I head out to find the cache and it actually goes really smoothly. I sneak past the super mutants and have no issue getting the cache, but when I go to leave I have a small heart attack as I nearly die while running through a minefield that I didn't know existed, but other than that, I turn in the quest and this unlocks the ballistic weave mod for me. This is great, but it's going to be a pain to get enough ballistic fiber to actually use this upgrade, and I wouldn't be surprised if I don't find enough to actually make the mod in this entire run, as the only reasonable way for me to get ballistic fiber is to lockpick toolboxes and pray that it has military-grade duct tape inside, and military-grade duct tape is a kind of rare spawn. With a few railroad quests out of the way, I decide that here at about 17 minutes into the video, I should take on the first main story quest of the game. So I head over to Park Street Station, which I've been avoiding as I just feel I'm not strong enough, but I may as well try it. I head into the station only to find out that I cannot kill these triggermen and sneaking past them is impossible. I end up dying half a dozen times before deciding I need more ammo and better weapons to try and take this quest on. In order to get stronger, I believe I need more levels. And the best way to level up is by questing, so I need to find some easy quests quickly. Luckily though, I know where to find a very easy quest, so I start off by going over to Concord, where I die to a raider outside the Museum of Freedom. Yeah, not my best showing, but I try again and manage to clear the raiders outside the museum before making my way inside, and from here the fighting is tense and I have to sneak around and use melee to its fullest, but after a couple more deaths, I figure out a way to get through all the raiders and meet up with Preston. I then head outside the museum and parkour down off the roof before forcing the Deathclaw to spawn. After a while, the Deathclaw kills off all of the raiders, and I thought this would be an easy time as the Deathclaw broke one of its legs while fighting them, but the second he notices me, his leg is magically healed and he sprints at me. I try and wait for Preston to kill him, but Preston manages to fall off his little balcony and despawn, so instead I have to sneak until the Deathclaw loses track of me, and then proceed to use my Fat Man to end him with a sneak critical. I then speak with Preston inside the museum, and he is stuck in his down animation, which was really funny. Either way, he tells me he's heading over to Sanctuary, so I follow him back there and speak with him again to complete the quest, and then he tells me to go help out Ten Pines Bluff. I figured that works out for me, as I can just head east from Sanctuary and try and find some places to gain some levels. Instead of showing you me running around like a chicken with my head cut off, here's a montage of me dying and making small bits of progress for a couple of hours.
Sweet.
What is it now?
After that aimless wandering, I make my way to Bunker Hill, where I run into this ghoul named Eddie, and I accept his invitation to come work for his boss. I then head over to the house of Jack Cabot, who asks me to look for a missing package stolen from him by some raiders. But before I go, I decide to loot the house for all it's worth, and I get a ton of ammo alongside some new weapons by looting Edward's room before leaving the house to make my way over towards the Parsons State Insane Asylum. On my way there, I decide to make a pit stop at the Red Rocket to upgrade my weapons before stopping by Ten Pines Bluff to ask the settlers what they want, and they ask me to clear out the Bad TFL headquarters, which is a super easy quest that I'll probably do for the experience at some point. I then make my way to the asylum, where I'm told to go to a nearby creamery and kill the raiders who stole the package. So I make my way over and get a sneak critical to kill one of the raiders before all hell breaks loose. There's super mutants and a Mr. Gutsy that show up and start massacring the raiders while I sit here hiding and watching. I then get the serum off the corpse of one of the raiders and return to Jack Cabot's house where I speak with Eddie. I give him the serum and he sends me off to find Jack's sister. I then head over to this cult that I robbed earlier and free Jack's sister from a toxic relationship with a cult leader. Hey, quick editor's note because I forgot to put it in my script. I actually went to Huber's Comics after saving Imogene and got Grognak's axe after dying only once to the ghouls inside. This weapon is valid because it's in a locked case, so I unlocked the case, grabbed it, and now we have a really good melee weapon on our hands. After solving the case, I return to the Cabot house only to find Jack trying to reach Edward on the radio. I see a golden opportunity to pickpocket some ammo off of Jack's mom, but she catches me and I die. I come back and try again, managing to get the ammo off Grandma while finding out that the insane asylum is under attack by raiders. Jack then recruits me to go with him to the asylum to help Eddie and deal with the raider threat. At first, I figured I would just sneak to the asylum, letting Jack do all of the fighting along the way, but after we run into some super mutants and Jack spends a really long time getting downed by them, I decide to move on without him and just sneak to the asylum on my own, because while it's funny to watch Jack walk this trail of tears, it is painfully slow. When I finally reach the asylum, Jack magically appears and we enter only for this berserker raider to pull me into a kill animation with their first attack, which felt really unfair but also familiar after all my Skyrim runs. Speaking of which, I find it really surprising how many of you don't know that I have challenge run Skyrim 3 total times. If you really like my content, you should really consider subscribing as it'll help you be up to date on what I'm doing, and also every once in a while you can check my videos page and maybe you'll find there's a challenge run waiting for you that you just missed. Anyways, I run all the way from Bunker Hill to the asylum once again, only to die a bit further than I got last time. So on my next attempt, I decide to go to this nearby raider settlement named Lynn Woods, where I try and sneakily use a bed, but this doesn't work, so instead, I run up this tower and activate a siren, which summons 2 Deathclaws which tear the raiders apart over the course of a few minutes. I then sneak past the Deathclaws and use the bed to give myself a hard save right at the asylum. Entering the dungeon for the 3rd time, I take things very slowly, making my way through the entire dungeon, only really fighting a couple of times while letting Jack do all of the heavy lifting. It's painfully slow watching him fire a few shots before going down for a minute, only to repeat the cycle, which takes forever, but I get a ton of loot from various locked containers and rooms until eventually we reach the room where his father is being held, and I have to head inside and kill the raiders before they release Papa Cabot. So I make my way in, and I'm dead. These raiders are way too strong for me, so I'm going to have to employ some fun strategies to deal with them, but first I need to tell you about me dying over and over and over throughout the dungeon. Luckily, there are some beds, which give me a save point inside the dungeon, but I still end up dying a few more times before even reaching the final room for the 2nd time. After a lot of suffering, I finally get this attempt where I sneak up to the leader of the gang named Lefty and reverse pickpocket a grenade into his inventory, killing him and one of his goons before taking on the final raider in melee combat, which turned out to be pretty easy. With that done, I turn on the Zeta generators to kill off Papa Cabot and finish the quest by speaking with Jack once more. With that quest done, I decide to make my way over to the nearby town of Salem, where I parkour over a fence to enter the house of a big purple dinosaur who I manage to pickpocket a key off of before entering this workshop where I find the legendary Reba 2 hunting rifle. This is going to be a huge upgrade since I got it by stealing a key, so I grab it only to immediately die to the Mirelurks. I end up dying one more time to the Mirelurks before deciding to approach this from a different angle. Instead of beelining into the house, I decide to enter this nearby convalescent home run by Mr. Handy Robots. I know there's a bed here and I want to use it as a nearby save point so I can attempt getting Reba 2 a bunch more without having to run across the map. What I didn't know is that the bed is inside a locked room which contains an end of dungeon steamer trunk, and inside I find a bunch of ammo and loot that's going to be super useful, but when I go to leave the nursing home, a bunch of synths enter and start killing the Mr. Handys. I spend a long time dying to these synths over and over and over. It was a real pain, but after employing my signature strategy of bashing my head into the wall repeatedly, I eventually managed to clear the entire building of synths by using a ton of grenades and sneaky tactics like running away to lose aggro so I can get a melee stealth critical attack. With the building cleared, I save one more time before heading out and continuing on my quest to obtain Reba 2. And after dying one more time to Mirelurks, I managed to get the gun and kill the overgrown crabs with ease. I then speak with Barney and he asked me to go turn on a bunch of turrets that he's set up throughout the town. I figure this this can't be too bad, so I head out and turn on the turrets, and it's going really well. I managed to turn on the first 4 turrets without issue by sneaking up to each one and turning it on before watching it kill a ton of Mirelurks for me. But the final turret proves to be my downfall, as it's in a room filled with Mirelurk. I do manage to turn it on, but it immediately points its barrel into the room and inadvertently blows me away while trying to kill a Mirelurk. I then proceed to die a few more times due to me being impatient until eventually I manage to activate all of the turrets. And with that done, I complete the quest and figure it's time to take on Vault 114 once again now that I have a stronger arsenal. I head over to Park Street Station, and you know what? Here's a montage of me mowing down the Triggermen one at a time.
This is gonna set for your 2 timing.
Ashamed of that beat up.
With Nick saved from the Triggermen, I head back to Diamond City and get interviewed by him before heading over to the mayor's office where I steal the key to Kellogg's house. I also loot the mayor's safe before heading over to Kellogg's house where I speak with Nick and give a cigar to Dogmeat before leaving Diamond City and heading over to Fort Hagen on my own, where I start the long and painful path to Kellogg by sneaking up on the roof and blowing up the turrets with my axe before heading into the basement where I immediately die to the synths. Yep, I'm just really struggling here, but I try again, and things go a lot better. I activate this Protectron, and it clears the lower floor with ease, while I spend some time upstairs giving the synths and turrets there a lesson in Viking diplomacy before taking a nap in a sleeping bag and continuing on my way. I then kill the Protectron and a turret before getting obliterated by the synth leader. Going at it again, I managed to deal with the synth leader and gain access to this secure room, which was nice as it restocked my ammo before taking on the rest of the dungeon. I end up dying over and over as I attempt to clear out the underground section of Fort Hagen, as I basically have no leeway in fighting the synths. I either kill them without getting detected, or I die. This would be fine if I could isolate them, but unfortunately most of the synths are patrolling in groups. Anyways, after a ton of suffering, I make my way to Kellogg and greet him with total atomic annihilation. He's still alive? Really? He ate a nuke to the face. I don't think I've ever seen a better ad for cornflakes in my life. Anyways, I died to this nuke-eating cereal mascot after this funny interaction where I shoot him in the face a bunch until he forgets where I am. After dying to him a couple of times, I managed to kill him through sheer determination before stealing his brains and leaving the fort to see the Pridwen entering the Commonwealth. I hit level 17 during the dungeon, allowing me to take the 3rd rank of the pickpocket perk, so I immediately head to the Cambridge police station, where I steal a laser pistol off one of the Brotherhood members before taking a vertibird up to the Pridwen. After doing all of the boring Brotherhood stuff that they force you to do when you first go to the Pridwen, like meeting all the leaders, I get to have a ton of fun going on a pickpocketing spree, stealing all of the ammo I can for my new laser pistol until I run into this knight captain sleeping who has a key to the armory. I steal the key and enter the armory only to get caught stealing and die. I end up dying a bunch of times during my little stealing spree, but in the end we exit the Pridwen with an arsenal of destruction that I hope will allow me to start plowing through the rest of the story. I then make my way to Diamond City where I speak with Nick and Piper about Kellogg's brains before making my way over to Dr. Amari in the Memory Den and spend a while telling her about Kellogg and how we need to be inside his brains. After a while it's decided I need to stomp around his memories, so I enter the lounger and walk through his memories until I find out he has X-ray vision and that the Institute uses teleportation. I then exit Kellogg's Kellogg's memories and speak with Dr. Amari, and it's decided that I need to go to the Glowing Sea to find the rogue Institute scientist that Kellogg was supposed to track down. It's here where I hatch a clever plan to get a radiation suit because I want to avoid using power armor to get through the Glowing Sea, as I really just don't want to fight, and sneaking in power armor is very difficult. So I head over to Good Neighbor and start off the big dig quest by heading into Bobby's basement and killing off some Mirelurks. She then sends me to Diamond City, where I meet her at the Power Noodle stand, and she tells me to go get a guy named Mel out of jail. So I head over to the jail and fail a persuasion check to get the guard to let Mel out early before pickpocketing the key off him, only to die when I open the cell door because the guards don't like me busting people out of prison. On my second attempt, I just use a bunch of the stolen caps I've acquired throughout the run to bribe the guard to let Mel go. I then head back to the dig site where I meet up with Bobby, Mel, and Sonia, the digging robot. I then proceed to die a few times trying to make my way through this dungeon. There really isn't that much to talk about as far as combat goes. It's basically just me watching Bobby and Mel clear out the entire place and only fighting when something gets too close. After clearing a path to what should be Diamond City's vault, we have Sonia blow herself up to create a path up, only to find out that Bobby lied and we're in Hancock's personal warehouse. It's here where I need to kill Bobby, and this turned out to be a real pain. I die over and over as Bobby is the tankiest woman alive. She just shrugs off multiple sneak criticals from a Gauss rifle, but eventually I manage to be sneaky enough to kill the ghoul woman with sheer patience and sneak criticals. I then realized my clever plan was pointless, as I thought the radiation suits in this warehouse were on the ground, but no, they are equipped by these triggermen, and I don't have the 4th rank of pickpocket, which would allow me to steal armor off of NPCs. This turned out to be a massive waste of time, and I still need power armor and some fusion cores to get through the Glowing Sea to Virgil. So I make my way over to the edge of the Glowing Sea, where there's a super mutant encampment. Luckily for me, every time you get near this encampment, the Brotherhood sends a vertibird with some troops to clear it. My plan is simple. I'm going to steal the power armor, but first I need to help the Brotherhood fight and win against the super mutants, so I start off by sniping this suicider, as it's the only real threat to the Brotherhood Knights. They clear the settlement for me, and after the fighting dies down, I sneak up to the 2 knights and pickpocket their fusion cores, forcing them out of their armor. After that, I head over to sleep at this nearby bed and find another Brotherhood Knight who kills me when I try and steal her fusion core. I then die a few more times trying to get the power armor from her before just heading back and grabbing a set from the 2 earlier, as they aren't standing next to the armor anymore, which means I can grab it without being marked as a thief. I then head into the Glowing Sea, and it's quite honestly a boring trip. I just run from rad scorpions and sneak past everything else until I reach Virgil's cave, where I use the Gauss rifle to get a couple of sneak criticals to kill a Deathclaw before speaking with Virgil. He tells me I need to get a Courser chip in order to enter the Institute, but before I do that, I explore around the Glowing Sea until I find this crashed plane, which has a hidden compartment with a master lock. I lockpick it and get my hands on a ton of new gear, including a combat rifle. I then leave the Glowing Sea and make my way back to Diamond City, where I try and do more stealing, only to get caught in the process. I forgot to save before stealing, so I panicked and used all of the chems I had to run out of Diamond City before making my way to the Red Rocket, where I upgrade my weapons once more using stolen junk, and then make my way over to Good Neighbor, where I steal some jet from Hancock to give to Mama Murphy in Sanctuary, where I was hoping she would give me the Courser's recall code, but she just doesn't, so instead, I just have to take on the Courser myself, so I head over to Green Tech Genetics without his recall code, and I'm just in a montage kind of mood today, so here, enjoy yet another montage. Before we move on, you should check if you liked this video and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second and it really helps out this channel, and don't worry, I'll wait. You did it? Awesome. Moving on, I head over and get the Courser chip decoded by Tinker Tom at the Railroad HQ before heading back to Virgil, who gives me plans for a signal interceptor. With that, I return to the railroad and speak with Desdemona and Tinker Tom before starting work on the signal interceptor at Sunshine Tidings Co-op. And this is where I was very worried the run would be a failure, as I had done a ton of research trying to find out if I could get a biometric scanner within the rules of the run. As far as I had seen throughout this run, they don't spawn in locked containers, and I had been looking since the beginning with no luck. There isn't a single biometric scanner in the game, as far as I know, that is marked as owned in the world, so I couldn't just pick one up. So that means I either need to find it in a locked room or container, and that's hard to track down. It's not like the wiki tells you, oh, there's gonna be one in this locked room in this building. The wiki only has a few general areas. So I just kinda started looking everywhere, and eventually I made my way to Vault 81, hoping to find one there, but there just wasn't one anywhere to be found. And after that, I resigned myself to failing the run and decided to just go to the Medford Memorial Hospital to obtain one the way the game wants you to. I entered the super mutant infested hospital, fully expecting to fail the run here, and the fight with the super mutants was incredibly scary. It honestly felt more like a horror game than Fallout, as I died over and over trying to work my way through the massive super mutants inside. I would sneak around hearing the mutants all around me, and even had this hilarious moment where I got caught with my pants down and managed to survive by hiding in this corner. Some of the mutants got incredibly close, and I thought I was done for, but they never noticed me, and after they lost me, I would throw grenades to kill them. This actually happened twice, and I was laughing so hard at the insane luck I had to make this asinine strategy work. Anyways, I had searched the entire building and decided that I would just fail the run until one of my chatters noticed that there was a biometric scanner inside a locked room that I didn't notice the first time I went through. I run back to the room and find it, and the run is saved. So a special thanks goes out to the chatter Lucifer Morningstar, as he managed to keep the run alive by simply seeing better than me and the rest of the chat. With the biometric scanner in hand, I return to the settlement only to run into a new roadblock. I have to go out and steal all of the supplies to build the signal interceptor and a ton of generators to power it. This task is a bit daunting as it requires me to steal an absolute gigaload of supplies, and before you ask, yes, I have already moved all the supplies that the railroad provides into another container, so that way all of the things used on this teleporter will be stolen by me. I ended up stealing from tons of places, but the most important place I stole from ended up being Vault 81, as they have a ton of restored and perfect condition junk items that are marked as owned, and these items are incredible for building anything, as restored and preserved items generally just have more junk components when you scrap them. I go on an absolute massive stealing spree throughout the vault, and I only had a handful of mishaps before making my way back to build the teleporter and speak with Desdemona before getting teleported into the Institute. Once inside, I do the standard meet and greet of all the Institute division leads before speaking with Liam Benet, otherwise known as the Patriot. He tells me that he needs login credentials from some pre-war person and has me meet with a synth where together we plan to free 13 synths in one go. I then speak with Father, who tells me to go to Libertalia and recover a synth with a Courser. After that, I leave the Institute and decide to do some prep work for the quests to come, starting with a pre-war bank near Diamond City that I enter before hacking the vault door to open, before spending a long time unlocking all of the safe deposit boxes, and this leaves me with a ton of ammo and other supplies. I then head over to the railroad headquarters and write up a report on Pam's computer before she tells me that the login credentials that Liam needs are most likely located at Cambridge Polymer Labs. I take this new information and ignore it for now, instead deciding to make my way to the southeastern side of Boston until I reach this destroyed settlement known as University Point. I spend a long while hacking and lockpicking my way through the main building here until I reach this hidden underground area and find the UP-77 prototype legendary laser rifle. It features the never-ending legendary effect, and with this new weapon in hand, I return to the Red Rocket, where I modify it into the pistol before making my way to the Cambridge Polymer Labs, where I enter and immediately head upstairs and lockpick my way into the CEO's office. I kill a ghoul inside and use the terminal here to lift the security lockdown before heading down into to the lab and killing off all the ghouls, which was surprisingly easy. I then used the terminal here to obtain the login credentials for Liam, but before returning to the Institute, I decide to head out to Libertalia and start fighting my way through all the raiders there. The fighting is slow and drawn out as I basically just use my 2 pistols to snipe at the raiders from afar. I end up dying a few times to things like X8 setting off a landmine next to me and the Fat Man Raider, but other than that, things are going smoothly, and I take down the raiders one by one, slowly inching my way closer and closer to the main boat, until I reach this elevator and start clearing out the boat, where I run into this awkward situation where I'm trying to get a legendary raider to walk onto my landmines, but for whatever reason, he won't leave the corner of this room, so I have to take 1 or 2 shots at him and then hide to avoid getting killed. After playing peekaboo for long enough though, he falls to the ground and I continue on my way to the rogue synth until I reach the room at the top of the boat. Inside the room, I find a couple of locked containers, and after lockpicking them, I find a 50 cal pipe rifle, which is huge. Throughout the run, I've been stockpiling a ton of 50 cal ammo, and now I can finally use it. I then head outside and recite the recall code for the rogue synth before killing his buddies and teleporting back to the Institute to speak with Father. He then sends me to go with another courser to recover 4 synths from the railroad at Bunker Hill, so I go ahead and make my way over to the courser and start walking through the chaos of the battle, letting the factions fight it out while I enter the basement unscathed and continue to watch the fighting. There's this really funny moment that happens where this synth picks up a minigun and then aggressively T-poses, but after that, I just wait for all the other synths to die, and when the courser is the only one left, I use my new 50 cal rifle to pop his head like a balloon. With the courser dead, I make my way over to the CIT ruins before spending an embarrassing amount of time trying to parkour onto the roof before giving in and taking the stairs like everyone else. I then speak with Father for a little while, and he tells me I need to attend a meeting with him and the other division leads, but before that, I decide to head over to the Railroad HQ and speak with Desdemona, who tells me we're scrapping Liam's plan to save 13 synths, and instead are going to try and take down the Institute and free all of the synths in one go, and that I need to plot with Z1 to make this happen. So I teleport back to the Institute and speak with Z1, and after the conversation, I go place a bunch of weapons in this footlocker before going down an elevator to kill some guard synths so that some of Z1's allies can blow up the dig site and start working on building more weapons. I then return to Z1 and he says he'll let me know when they're ready for the assault before going to attend the director's meeting where Father reveals that he is dying very soon. After the meeting, I speak with Allie and she tells me we're going to Mass Fusion to get a gadget for the Institute's reactor. I then head out to this bridge near Bunker Hill where I stole a fusion core from a Brotherhood Knight earlier, leaving a full set of T-60 T-60 power armor. Oh yes, the sexiest power armor, the T-60. Oh man, I can't speak. Either way, I take the stolen armor and head to the relay room, which puts me atop the building of Mass Fusion. Once there, I clear the rooftop with the help of Allie before grabbing the executive ID card and jumping off the roof. I then enter the building and kill a couple more Brotherhood members before heading into the reactor room where I activate the Assaultrons and then deactivate them to allow me to easily kill them before heading into the reactor room. I take the beryllium agitator out of the reactor core and then fight with a sentry bot, which isn't really all that difficult as I just hide in the decontamination room and pop out to take pot shots while Allie lights him up with her laser pistol. After all that is done, I just walk out of Mass Fusion and return to the Institute where I deliver the agitator to Allie before speaking with Father. Father sends me off to rescue some Institute scientists from the Gunners, which was really a trivial task as I just snipe at the Gunners from afar until none of them are left standing before helping the scientists retrieve Dr. Thompson. Upon returning to the Institute and speaking with Father, I read off a speech for the Commonwealth before heading over to Diamond City where I fix the radio station. I once again return to the Institute and activate the reactor while Father gives a speech before sending me off to a director's meeting. When the meeting ends, a synth tells me my apartment is flooding, so I run over and Z1 is there to tell me the Brotherhood are attacking the railroad. I then head over to the Old North Church and warn Desdemona just in time for the Brotherhood to bust in. The fight with the Brotherhood is really rough. I die over and over and over as my power armor just isn't strong enough to allow me to go toe-to-toe with the Knights sent to kill me. I also run into this funny bug where Glory just isn't dead, but she's dying, and after I talk to her, she just falls to the ground dead. It was really funny at the time to me, at least. Anyways, I eventually managed to get this run where I take each fight incredibly slowly and abuse stealth enough to kill off each and every Brotherhood member. It takes a solid 15 minutes of sneaking and struggling against the big metal men, but in the end, they lay dead or dying, and I speak with Desdemona, who tells me we're going to Cambridge Police Station to steal a vertibird to take down the Brotherhood. I head over to the police station and start fighting through the Brotherhood in an identical way to how I fought them in the catacombs. The only real issues are the members in power armor, and after I clear out the outside, I head inside where it's just a slaughter. To be honest, when enemies don't have power armor, they aren't even an obstacle for me anymore, because having a high rank of the Gunslinger perk means my 10mm pistol deals with pretty much everybody in just a couple of shots. Unfortunately though, I'm starting to run out of ammo and I'm a bit concerned as I head up to the roof where I'm attacked by a vertibird and 2 knights in power armor. The fight here is actually quite difficult as it forces me to use chems to beat the knights, and I even end up dying a couple of times. But through the use of Psycho and Jet, I managed to dump 10mm pistol mags into both of the knights, killing them pretty easily before whittling down the vertibird. After that, I board the vertibird, and for some reason, I'm told by Deacon I can't use a disguise, and this proves to be a huge issue. I can't sneak past the Brotherhood on the Prydwen, and I end up dying a couple of times without even making it inside the Prydwen before realizing I have no shot at doing this quest. So for the first time in one of these challenge runs, I have to give up on a faction entirely and be a turncoat, instead deciding to beat the game with the Institute's questline. So I return to the Institute and head to Father, who orders me to kill the railroad. I then make my way to the Old North Church for the last time and use 2 sneak criticals to kill Desdemona before getting into an extended fight with Deacon and Tinker Tom. After dealing with them by using sneak crits and panic firing, I head into the HQ and kill Dr. Carrington. With the railroad annihilated, I return to Father, who sends me to speak with Dr. Lee and an intern who tell me the plan to take down the Brotherhood. I then head up to the relay room and teleport to the edge of the Boston airport and get stuck in a long session of pain and suffering. And you know what? I feel you all deserve one more montage in this video, so here, sit back and enjoy watching me beat the Brotherhood of Steel. With the Prydwen turned into little more than scrap metal, I teleport into the Institute and speak with Father while answering the question, can I beat Fallout 4's survival difficulty as a thief? Yes, I can. Oh, and on a side note, I remember to deal with Honest Dan. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed, please consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a challenge suggestion down below. I'd like to thank my channel members and patrons as their support has been tremendous, and if you like this run, you'll probably like my challenge run where I try and beat Fallout 4 with only grenades. You all are beautiful, and this is Willow, signing off.